CEO and Director Mike. Recording in progress.
Well, we will be, and you be good and breathe through it. And I'm available most of the day if you want to chat.
Sweet. Very cool. So, well, we're 3 minutes in, so we could probably get this party going. We have Amber and Julie, two just exceptional women that are doing some pretty amazing things, basically in publishing, but also in festivals, events, planning. Amber has become one of those very close colleagues of mine and Molly's that she's supported our festival association for a number of months now. And we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time in this hour to be here today. And if you guys would like to both give your kind of the intros and your background, I'll let you guys roll with the show.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Molly. I am Amber Rood. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing here at the Greenville Daily News, part of View Newspaper Group. We're throughout the state. And kind of how you saw a little bit of my bio, not only do I represent the newspaper, I am like many of you where I am on those boards, where I am on those nonprofits, festivals. I'm part of the chamber board for both Belding Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board for Ionia Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the Belding Area Community Fund founding board, Ionia County Economic Alliance, the Belding Labor Day co-chair. So, and Julie's, she'll let you know about hers too. But yes, so those are just some of the things I do in all my free time. But so I understand the struggles when it comes to working with little to no budgets as a nonprofit, you know, planning those events. And so Julie and I are here today to talk to you about how we can help give you ideas to help partner with your publishing group or other media partners or other businesses to help kind of achieve those goals and with minimal impact to your budget.
Yep. And I am Julie Stafford. I'm the publisher here at the newspaper. I think Amber and I have taken the approach all the years that we've worked together that it's really important to be involved in your community, especially those nonprofit organizations. So, you know, I'm here at the paper. I've sat on the board and been president of the Michigan Press Association, which is a nonprofit. It has a nonprofit arm statewide. I sit on the United Way board. I'm part of Rotary, work with the schools, all that stuff. So, but I really think that we look at all of the organizations we're involved with, all the nonprofits, the festivals, as really being part of you know, not the formal chamber of commerce, but we're all advocates for our communities and the people who live in them.
Sure. So we're very easygoing. We are not out there professional speakers. We're just as normal Joes. So feel free if you have questions, ask us. We might get off subject. We get excited when we talk about this stuff. So if we talk fast, just let us know. Eric, just give us a thumbs up if we need to slow down.
Well, and maybe just to go into a little bit more in depth with the daily news of what you guys actually do, because one of the things I think I respect so much about, especially a lot of our membership base, is that they're in smaller communities.
Sure.
Like we don't necessarily have the advantage of being in a Detroit or a Chicago or Grand Rapids all the time. And you guys represent a number of smaller communities, but maybe if you want to go in depth a little bit about what you guys do with daily news before you dive into basically all your topics.
Sure.
So a handful of years ago, I mean, just like festivals and nonprofit organizations, we're not super rolling in the dough. You know, newspapers obviously have had their struggles, and we've had to look for other avenues of revenue and other ways to get our brand out there. And so a few years ago, like maybe 5 years ago, some things were coming across my desk and catalogs on you know, just some of the swag that you could sell. And we decided that we really wanted to be a one-stop shop for anybody looking to get their message out into the community. And so, you know, we've had to look at different ways to bring in revenue and to connect with people. And I feel like that's very much what this organization, everybody a part of it, is also trying to do.
And I think there's a huge benefit to working with those smaller newspaper groups. you're dealing with people locally that make those decision makers and that really have that empathy for community. And I think that that can be forgotten sometimes in the larger areas. So not always, but we partner with a lot of the larger organizations also in the media world, but I think there's value to that, and it's worth that conversation if you're not already speaking with somebody in your newspaper group locally. And if you don't know who that is, please reach out to us, because we likely do, and we'd be happy to make that connection, because I think I could speak for the majority of anybody that's part of the press association that our commitment is to community. A community is our readership. It's, you know, we wouldn't be here without it. So to businesses, things like that. So businesses and festivals and nonprofits and community, I mean, we're all a package together. So working together cohesively is important for that role.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we end up posting your guys' contact information either in the chat or also just send it out basically in an email after the fact. But yeah, for us, I know because Molly and I specifically deal with so many smaller communities, that role that you play, whether it's building the mental health, whether it's building just the community and the relationships and even the family structure that goes into it, it is critical. And I think that we have one of the you know, going to promote Michigan festivals and events, you know, having over 500 festivals that are at smaller communities, that is something that's important to all of us within our staff, but also the people that we love partnering with more so than pretty much anybody, because we know how much extra drive, how much more work it takes. And the fact that there isn't necessarily the, you know, the $4 billion budget that you'll end up getting basically in some of these other, you know, larger corporations.
Sure. I would have to agree.
Yep.
So if you guys want to go down the path of what you would like to speak about for your topics,
Sure.
We'll let you roll with that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for those intros. Though.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and just let us know. Today, we just thought about just talking a little bit. I know there's sometimes misconception of, is branding the same as advertising? Is marketing the same as advertising? So we just thought we'd just do some quick hits, you know, just for those that are either, whether you're at the beginning phase or you've been established for many years. Sometimes those of us that are part of festivals and events that have been in, I guess, business, we're all business for a long time, we forget to go back to the basics. And so, you know, one of those things is just talking about what's the difference between branding and advertising. And so we just put some quick hits together for you guys, and just, you know, so thinking about some of the things, it's like everything starts with your brand. So a brand can include your logo, the font you use, the colors, the song, the jingle. So you think of some of the most popular brands out there, whether it be McDonald's or whoever it is, you see the brand, it's recognizable, and you think of sometimes those. So same with a festival or an event, you see a logo. We work with a lot of festivals, but you see their logos and different things, and it'll stand out just by seeing their logo. You know exactly who they are and what they represent. It can represent, but it also represents things that you might not see. It could represent their mission in their community interaction. The purpose of the event, is the purpose of the event, you know, a business expo, or is it for community? So that brand that you're putting out there can make an impact on that. So, and that brand can tell your story without actually having to say the words on those.
So a brand can connote memories. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. So when you see it somewhere, like locally, we have the Danish Festival, which has been going since I was a little girl, and you know, all the folks who are my dad's generation and older, they all were part of the start of that. But if you see the logo for that, you just think of the memories. And so your brand can either make people think of good things or bad things. So you really just want to be involved and really try to swing to the good side. It's what you use to catch people's attentions. The goal being that they see your brand and they want more information about when, where, how long. Like, oh my gosh, the Danish Festival, I wonder when that is this year. Do you have a brand logo that's easily recognizable? Sometimes people try to get a little too complicated with their logos, and you just want something like that people can see from far away and they just know. You also want to get your brand in front of your target demographic, and it should be included in any and all of your advertising. You know, one of the things that we did with the Danish Festival, a couple of years ago, we took over for a couple of years organizing the downtown vendors. There are several things that go on in our town. And, you know, it used to just kind of be, that's where you had the juried artists and some of the higher end crafters and boutiques, but it didn't really have a brand. So when we took it over, we created something that was really visible. So this has the look and the colors of the Danish Festival logo, but this really gave a brand to one of the events within the Danish Festival. And then that allowed us to put together a Facebook page and kind of give it its own personality.
Sure, because there's, as you know, with a lot of our events that we put on as chambers or festivals, we break into smaller events within those. So this was a great example of how there's a tandemness to those because the branding is similar, but it puts out its own separate. And a lot of you have festivals that are week-long festivals. So whether things that are at the grandstand or for 4-H fairs or things like that. So just kind of separating them out so they have their own. It's great for sponsors too, for those kind of things too. So, and then so kind of going into Eric, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was going to say, like, you guys have kind of been highlighting some of the topics about, like, proper branding, proper logos. Can you kind of speak to the topic of just being consistent about those brands? Because I think that is something we've struggled with, actually going back to like years past where we had Michigan Festivals and Events, MFEA.org, MichiganFun, Party at My Place. And really in the last 3 to 4 years, we've had to try to like boil it back down to basically MichiganFun, because we want to be consistent with that branding and maybe highlight the importance of that, because that can be one of the biggest struggles that we've seen consistently over the years, is just being consistent with just the same logo over and over versus putting out basically too many different things that are branded too many ways.
I can attest to that when it comes to the Belding Labor Day celebration. So we're a Labor Day celebration. And every year we change our theme. So until last year, it was like, and I think this is I don't know if it's my 5th or 6th year, they blend together, but every year we would change up our look and the website would change. And so the logo would change based on the theme, but we never actually had our own identifiable logo. It was just always this typeset, would change the color, throw some fireworks. And so when things were branded, it just was like, is this really Belding Labor Day celebration? So that was a good point to that. So now we've been consistent enough to where we had to look down and say, okay, what are the things that represent all of those things that we do? We recreated a logo that represents the parade, it took a while to get there, but it represents all of those. And then identified different events and did what we did with Danish Festival. But because you do host so many of us do so many fundraisers throughout the year, or chambers and festivals and other organizations do events throughout the year too. So we want to change up that look and call them different things. But I think being consistent with your base logo or your base brand, and it's okay to change up the look of things, for those specific, if it's a ladies' night or a night, you want that to be dressed up as that, but to have your base brand, I would steer away from changing the colors of that too. We all been guilty of changing the colors up for the logo because of it's a St. Patrick's. I would keep your brand consistent, but change up the look of the event that you're publicizing.
It just goes to being able to identify what it is. If you just put that out there everywhere and it's the same everywhere you look, online, in print, on a billboard, on the website, then people start to recognize it.
And it's, I think about when I'm at your conference and I see people wearing their logo where it doesn't have to say what the entire festival it is, but I can tell by so many of them because they wear their branded, and I'm like, that's the fun group. So but the Bama Fly Fest, things like that I just remember seeing their logo, and so that consistent marketing of your brand, I think that's important. So that's definitely a good point, because advertising is one thing, but if you don't have your brand together, what is the purpose?
Right.
So I think that's
awesome.
important. And I think we're all, especially when so many of us are volunteers, I think probably almost everybody that's on here is probably a volunteer, or even if they're a paid director, they're spending a lot of time working with volunteers. And so sometimes we put the importance on some things not as high as they should be, but that is definitely something that should reflect what what the mission is of whether it be a chamber or a nonprofit or community group, a community fund, whatever it is, but you know, to really,
Right.
it might mean it goes through changes to get to the right one, but it'd be interesting to see it, you know, the next conference, everybody had their logos and had no name on it. Could you recognize them? So,
Right, yeah,
but yeah, so that does play a big factor on that. So. and
that's
that
pretty
kinda
cool.
goes- Yeah.
Well, and so going back into, because obviously you work with publishing and basically work in the press, but like the amount of work that you guys do with like the chambers and some of the other like community associations and programs and nonprofits that are in your area, can you maybe dive into that a little?
Sure. And actually, you know, a lot of the samples that we brought to show you are accumulation of a lot of those projects. Julie and I are the ones that are out there working with, most of we're actually in tandem working on the boards and actually working. So it does work, you know, it works well because of communication, but so those are the best relationships because we're in there and we can explain to them all of the different things that we can do to partner in the community. And that's what's so important. There's so much opportunity to partner with your media. And, you know, I'll speak on, and for us and View Newspaper Group, I mean, View Newspaper Group is throughout the state, but we, you know, here in the Greenville area, we're 1,000 square miles, 9 school districts, you know, countless nonprofits, you know, that we work with. And I think we have 3 area chambers that are very consistent. We're in the middle of 3 area chambers that are very, you know, very involved in their communities. So we're fortunate with that. So just gives us an opportunity. And then the fact that we are also committed by working with the actual businesses. So it gives us a good chance to connect all of them.
Yeah, I think that we always try to work with each organization or event on their own. We need to find out what's the mission, what's their budget. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of little towns that just don't have the manpower, they don't have the budget. So I can show you a couple things that we've done. So this is for Child Abuse Prevention Month. They came to us and it was the year that we were in COVID and they couldn't actually have the pinwheels. In April, you know, you'll see pinwheels all around in honor of child abuse prevention. They couldn't afford these. So we said, well, we'll do a poster that we'll put in the paper and people can put in their windows. And they didn't have the budget to pay for that. So then we went to some businesses that support that mission and said, hey, would you pay, I don't even remember what it was, $75 to help pay for this project. So there's ways to do that. The Trufant Jubilee, I mean, Trufant is, I don't know if anybody knows where that is, but you kind of blink and you go right through it. But they have a longstanding tradition of doing a booklet for the Trufant Stump Festival, Trufant Jubilee. Yep. And they used to sell the ads and design the publication and then come to us to print it. But then it just got to be, they just didn't have the time to do that. But it's a fundraiser for them. So they start, I think we already did the flyers for them. It's an event that goes over Labor Day. And they sell ads from here until end of July, and they pay us to put it together and to print it. But so everything is sold so that they end up making a profit. But that's, you know, just 2 different organizations where there's a way that you can make it work for any budget, any size organization. You know, just
really just starts with a conversation. So, I mean, and there's kind of leading into that for different ways to hit those budgets. We're kind of talking about those things, but, you know, so a lot of community groups or areas. So we work with, Lowell is not necessarily in our coverage area for the daily news, but they value the fact that a lot of the people that read our newspaper come to Lowell to shop. So we partnered with them. We have, so it's also thinking outside of who is in your direct area, but kind of reaching outside of that too, for possible people to get your message out. So we're just trying to come up with ways for nonprofits or festivals or organizations to have branding and marketing done at no cost to you. I mean, there's a project that we do for the Ionia Chamber that we print, and those of you that are on the call that have done, you know, a glossy magazine understand how expensive something like that is to put out to your community. But we partner with them to where honestly, they don't have any cost involved in it. And I actually give them a kickback. They earn a commission on our sales for it. So we put it all together. We do all the ad sales. I mean, this was a 60-page, beautiful glossy brochure that a magazine that we put out for Ionia County Chamber of Commerce. It includes everything for their mission for the chamber, stats. It's used for, it goes out to, you know, surrounding areas, but it's an opportunity for other festivals and events to put their message in there. It's an opportunity for businesses to get their information in there. So the same could be had. So if there's a chamber, you know, that's interested in doing something like that, you can get something like that out there at no cost. And so same with festivals, we do a lot with the festivals because again, we understand that budgets are very nil for those. So work with your local newspapers to ask them what can they do for you. So most of the time they're out there promoting your festivals anyways, because readers want to read about it. Ask them, you know, what can we do to partner with that? So we partner with, obviously with Belding Labor Day and then Trufant. What we do is we offer them free space into our paper the weekend before their event to give us, we'll do preview stories. We'll have writers write preview stories. We'll include any photos that they wanted to have, whether it was their kitty king and queen or their Mrs. pageants, their schedule events. We put all that in there at no cost to them because we're selling advertising to offset that. So it's a great partnership where it's not going to cost them to put the information in the newspaper. We're selling ads, so we're, you know, covering that cost. We're working with the businesses. We work directly with them so that we're not overselling people that they've had for sponsors and things like that. So it's just a great opportunity to work together because it's for a newspaper, we want that information out to our readers. And as a person on the other side of it, I'm on the Labor Day board. So to me, it's a win-win because before the festival, you really don't have a lot of budget to work with to write those checks, but you know, you're waiting for a lot of sponsor checks to come in and things like that. So if there's something that somebody wants to get done, there is a way to get it done. You know, sponsorships are a huge part of making that happen. We have a couple projects that we worked with. One was with, we actually do our own event here, the Spring Home and Garden Show that we put on events. And what we do is our sponsors, we include swag for that. So we have a tote bag that, you know, we wanted to pass out these tote bags, but we're like, we don't want to, you know, we're not making a ton of money on these events. It's more for community engagement. So we sell sponsorships on that. So we can get swag out there to the community with our event branding, and we're not paying for it. The sponsors are paying for it. So
that's awesome.
And Danish Festival is another one we work closely with. What they did a few years ago is they actually sold, because our Danish Festival preview is so huge in our community. So sponsors were, you know, they were asking sponsors to be a part of things, and they were already advertising in that because it's a huge feature for us. Well, what they started doing is they were building the sponsorship packages, working with us and, you know, getting the cost of what it would cost for different things. So they built it into the packages. So the sponsors getting what they already wanted before, but now it's part of their sponsorship package. The festival itself is taken care of because it's already covered in the cost of those, but we can work on the back end of things, you know, and your local newspaper can do the same, or media entity, work on the back end to see what the results are and help formulate those sponsorship packages also.
So sorry, Julie.
No, I was just going to say another easy way to get your message out and to help advertise your event is to go, you know, it's important to have a mix of, we're newspaper, we're web, but it's important if you can to have a mix. So have a radio if you can, or social media, brochures, that sort of thing. One thing you could think about is to go to those organizations that you really want to be in their mix and offer them a sponsorship, you know, figure out. So it would cost X amount to have 10 ads in the paper for the 2 weeks leading up. Well, we'll offer you a gold level sponsorship because that's what it equates to. And we'll put your branding, you'll be our media sponsor. So you could think about presenting those ideas to your local media or, you know, whoever's managing those marketing avenues.
So this is kind of a two-part question, because one thing I really want to highlight that you guys had mentioned just earlier was about the mission. And I think that that's really so critical that, you know, taking the time to be able to sit down with those organizations or those festivals or those nonprofits to understand what truly is their mission and getting, I mean, a perfect example is basically our new website design team. Like they've really taken the time to work with us so they know our mission, because sometimes it's not just a simple 10-minute conversation. Like it might take a couple of days or a couple of meetings. The second aspect of that, you know, maybe some of the best practices you guys have with figuring out the mission for that organization. But secondly, you highlighted sponsorship assets and breaking that down and how critical those can be, because the term sponsorship gets thrown out there all the time. And it's like, okay, $10,000 sponsorship, right? But what does it really mean to you guys to break down what's within that sponsorship and those assets? And how do you guys go about that process of determining, okay, these are the ones that we want to be able to offer, and then have it consistently and precise to be able to explain it to the people that are going to buy the sponsorships? Because anybody can say, give me $10,000.
Sure.
It's a whole different ball game when it's like, okay, we're going to include a digital ad campaign. You're going to be on the website. You're going to have some print. You're going to be in the magazine. You're going to be in an email blast, like all those other assets.
Well, the first part of that with the mission, you know, really that is critical because your audience is based on that mission. Maybe you're doing an event and it's totally, you're looking to get, it's a senior event and you only want senior citizens at that. So your mission, your audience is going to be completely different than maybe if you were doing a singles night or whatever it might be. So really that is critical. So that conversation for a United Way versus, you know, an area chamber or a recovery center, all of those missions are different. So that is critical to find that. And then what we try to do is develop strategies based on what that is. Is it geo-targeting? Is it going out to other festivals and events? Is it, you know, partnering with other newspapers so we can help get their message across the state, because we do that partnership. And then when it comes to, you know, looking at some of those other things, I think, I'm trying to think, I lost my train of thought there. What was the second part you said, Eric?
Well, I was the sponsorship. So the breakdown, I am a part of our local Rotary Club. And a few years ago, I took over, we have a concert in the park series. It's been going for like 30 years. The same guy did it forever and ever. And it was just sort of he would go to businesses and say, hey, will you sponsor it for $150? So when I came in, the bands were needing a little bit more. So I tried to come up with like a gold, silver, bronze sponsorship. And for the gold, you got bigger ads, you got the opportunity to announce the band, you know, you try to do value added, and those higher sponsorships, you really need to build in some things that your sponsors would appreciate, whether it's a bigger presence at the event, or being on a shirt, or you know, having signs and banners, and then the like the bronze level, you know, everybody should be included in all of your marketing. So I just really think you have to think about adding things in that make sense to jump a sponsorship from $500 to $750 to $1,000. So.
And I think having that clear and concise, we struggled with that, you know, even with Labor Day. And even here, you know, throughout, I mean, we did Spring Fling for Women for 7 years. And each year we kind of learned from the year before, what do sponsors want? Did it even make a difference between those, and looking at the levels? So playing around with the different levels of those, was there much difference between a $100 sponsor versus a $500 sponsor? You know, are the $500 sponsors getting more than the $700, you know? So looking at that and having it kind of black and white of what those are, but the value added things like those, they like to be presenters. So if there's an opening night, having, if it's a credit union that's a title sponsor, have them open up this, you know, for the opening act or things like that, give them a 30-second. It's just a matter of the recognition of being there. So those things that don't cost money to the organization are actually those things that really matter to them. If you're having a pie eating contest or or anything like that, have them be a judge, or whether it be just incorporate them in and let them know where you're branding, where, you know, we'll have at the last festival I was at, they talked about having volunteers work at their parking lot, and all that the bank wanted to do was to be able to send their employees, they volunteer the time, but they just wanted their employees to wear their company shirts. So there's ways to partner with that, but they got to do that also because they were a sponsor. So
You might also reach out to some of your longtime loyal sponsors and just find out what would appeal to them to be able to tick them up $250. Like if we threw in this, would that make a difference? And then that also can help you get your word out, because maybe you know what a quarter page ad in the paper or an 8th page or a front page or something on a website, or to buy a push on Facebook, you need to cover that cost. So you just need to figure out what you need and what they value, what they would get. You could do like a little survey or focus group to.
And it could even be adding like for Greenville Chamber did, they had a event for, I think it was the pizza eating contest and car show downtown. They were doing swag bags. They wanted to do koozies, but they didn't have the budget to pay for these koozies. So what they did is they simply had an advertiser by the one side of it, or paid for the koozies, and they had their logo on the other side of it. So things like that, those are the easiest sell for you, for your sponsors. Maybe that's part of, knock it up a sponsorship. It's like you get 500 koozies included with, that's easy, or if it's a car show, 500 keychains, or your logo's on the dash plaque. So a lot of those things can still be branded with your festival or organization, but be offset by the cost of a single sponsor. And it could be a first right of refusal of those things, that last year's koozie sponsor. But if you tailor it into a package, you can't be that sponsor unless you're at the silver level. So,
and you get fear of loss too. You only have, you have room for 5 gold sponsors and 3 silver sponsors, and then people are like, ooh, got to get in.
Yeah.
I love the fact though that you guys highlighted the human interaction aspect of sponsorship, where if somebody can get on stage and do an introduction for a band, or if somebody can, an executive director can get up and be able to like do that intro, because so many of us have always worked in the world of, the 4 imprint and then premiums and koozies and stickers and all that kind of stuff. But I love that you guys had highlighted the fact that sponsorship can be bigger than just premiums, that it doesn't necessarily have to be just a branded logo. It doesn't necessarily have to be just an ad. It can actually be human interaction, that they can actually be on stage and have a presence.
Well, remember too, that those are businesses that want to get their brand out, their recognizable brand. So they want it on a shirt, or they want it on a sign or a banner, or they want to get up and say, I'm the president of such and such a bank, because then that shows community involvement. And I think people are really looking for the personal connections to the businesses that they have an opportunity to visit or to serve.
Well, and then they did celebrity judges.
Well, and I was going to say, like, all of us have gone through this process of being, whether it's in live event planning or being a vendor, or, basically it's community involvement and interacting with other people. And we've had such a number of years now where we don't have that. It's not the same as what it was, in 2019, where, the interactions or the events, even though they might be similar, they still have a different feel to it. So I go back to a lot that, I think that the community health of being able to interact with people is so critical just for everybody in general. And I just love that you guys highlight that, because I just think it is really important, and even Molly was texting me that she's just like, we need to start doing that more often, like get our sponsors up on stage at conference or at our educational meetings,
And have fun with it. Have fun with your messaging. Don't be afraid to say, we're going to come together, or, just, it doesn't have to be a stuffy thing, and it doesn't have to be advertising and getting your message out. It doesn't have to be overwhelming or intimidating. There are some easy ways that
partnerships. It's all about partnerships. Yep, absolutely. And that's where, there's just so many opportunities when you look at volunteers, even, there's so many organizations we look at, and that's a part of advertising. So if the bank is going to volunteer to do cleanup one day, you can guarantee that they're posting it on their social media. Hey, stop by and see us. That's free advertising, so talking about advertising and a budget. So invite people to come and participate, because the engagement's going to be there, and that doesn't cost you anything. So the more that you get the community involved in your events, the more they're going to talk about it.
Well, and also this community, I mean, all the festivals and events cross pollinate, and maybe there's a way that you can go to each other's events to market and brand and get the word out about your event.
That's my goal this year, is to travel as to as many events as I can.
Yeah, and you know, that's been really, I will say this about our CEO and director, Mike. He's really taken it upon himself, maybe a little too crazy, but in the first couple months of this year, that we're doing 8 different meet and greets. So he's traveling all around the state, and you know, just highlighting different either bars or restaurants that are in those locations, inviting people out that are either already members or people that aren't members or people that are just potentially just vendors. And then, like I said, with that video podcast that we're doing every Tuesday, and then doing these educational sessions, because you really have to be in front of everybody. You know, I think that's the one thing that we've probably all really had to take a humble look at for the last couple of years, is that there's so much content, and there's so much social media, and there's so many different things that can distract you, that if you're not basically in front of everybody, going back to the branding and being consistent, you know, you can get lost in the mix. And I love the idea of the cross-pollinating too, because you know, we're all kind of in this kind of ball game together. But like, if you can support an event that's in Traverse City versus an event that's in Lansing versus an event that's in Detroit, like we had a really, really good conference last week where Molly and I got to sit down with like Claude Molinari, who's the director for Visit Detroit. They're bringing the NFL draft in, and we ended up meeting with the people from the Detroit Grand Prix, and we met with people from the Rock and Mortgage Classic. I mean, it's just massive when you see, you know, and that's just Detroit, right? But like, it was really impressive to see all those directors from all these major events, all on the same stage, all supporting each other.
That's, you know, one thing that there have been a couple of events that we've been involved in, speaking to being in front of people, especially with sponsors, that 2 events I can think of in particular. When I got involved and I was asking how they're getting sponsorships, because they were kind of low on those, we're sending letters out to people. We got a list of the businesses, and we're sending emails. And I feel like it means so much more to be in person, to be in front of the HR person or the owner of the business or the marketing expert. So I really feel like events, you know, ours included, you need to have a personal touch. You can't, like you said, it gets lost in the shuffle if you ask for email, and then they would say to me like, oh, well, they never responded. But, you know, did you get to the right person? And then the other thing with one thing that we started doing for our area that could be, and maybe some of your folks already do this, but we had the idea to try to get the word out about events in our area out to the state of Michigan. We're always shooting for the moon,
Sure.
right? Who needs the county? We want the state. So we put together this brochure and went to various festivals in the area and said, do you want to be a part of it? We have reached out to the MDOT, and we got permission to put brochures at all 14 visitor centers. So that's another way to get in front of your market. And those are people who are traveling through the state looking for stuff to do. And
that's an inexpensive way to do it, because you're not taking on the entire cost as one festival. I think for something like this, we do, I think a 6,000 count on this. It goes to our local subscribers. So then we probably do higher than that because we take it to the state, but it's, you know, minimal impact on the budget for what they get out of this. And you think, and we have it set up is it's by order of event. So they just check them off in the communities as they want to go through them. But, you know, so just thinking of ways that are affordable, a $300 investment into this, getting throughout the entire state, versus if you had to print this yourself and take that out there, a lot more. So, and then take advantage of some of those, you know, speaking of being a member of MFEA, you know, there's advantages as your memberships, your newsletters that are going out, you know, highlighting the different events. And same with chambers. I mean, the majority of the chambers, as one of your member benefits, is to be able to list your events that are going on. So that's just another way to get on their websites, get in their email blasts, their newsletters. take advantage. I think so many of us forget, I forget sometimes when we're hiring even to take advantage of our local chambers, because that's part of our service is to post those things on their sites for free. And so take advantage of those. That is something that you're already paying for the most part, and just getting the right information to the right people and being consistent with that, and timing is important.
Mhm. And being in front of people and being in the paper and showing up on the radio and having your brand in a brochure and getting an email, they say it takes 7 times to affect somebody's decision-making, to make them kind of, take action. So just trying to be at events and do as much as you can to just be in front of people as many times as possible in as many different ways.
Yeah.
And, there's a difference between, so we talked about, kind of getting outside of the area too through statewide. So it could be a matter of, we talked a little about cross pollinating with those things, whether it be in person at those events, but maybe it's geo-targeting, you're sending out pushes to the Tulip Festival when that's your event's a month later. But we sometimes forget that local, like being as part of these local business expos is critical for us as like for Labor Day Festival. For us, we finally had our booth at the one last year, and we had a booth. I'm on the community fund too, so I was teetering between, well, actually 3, because I'm in the Daily News too.
She
I was
didn't know what
teetering.
hat she was wearing.
Yeah, you do a lot.
I know.
There's no question.
So all the booths were set next to each other, so I was good with that. But it's important. So we forget that people have moved into the area. We just assume, like for Belding, we assume they all know we have a Labor Day Festival. What do you mean you don't know we have 3 parades? How do you not know this? It's so important to be out there, even locally, whether it's setting up a booth at a school event. We just think, I mean, when I say we, I'm talking Belding Labor Day, I'm just like, everybody knows about us, but they have questions. They want to know how to get involved. I mean, I can't believe the number of volunteers that want to come help us, but it's just a matter of and every year I get the same question: when are the fireworks? It's been the same for 40 years, but to be able to be there and answer those questions for people, or to just talk about what they liked or didn't like, and just talk about what's upcoming at the festival or event that year.
Yeah.
It's nice for the interaction.
Well, and I think that there's an aspect of going back to the branding and being consistent with it when you're actually face to face and you're actually taking the time, because it's a lot of work, right? Like Molly and I have been going to a lot more conferences and meetups and things that we didn't consistently do years ago. But, going back to Mike, our director, wanting to push us to do this stuff now, and that he's willing to allow us to be able to go out, whether it's Detroit or Traverse City or Lansing or wherever. But it takes work. It takes effort. And my fiance gives me crap all the time because I use the word rapport too often, but it is true. You need to have, like you were just saying, Julie, whether it's an email or a text message or seeing somebody face to face or giving them a hug or shaking their hand. If it's taking 7 to 8 or 9 interactions for people to consistently remember who you are, that's the additional effort that I think a lot of us, whether it's in publishing or whether it's in event planning, that it has to be a critical factor for us, that we really have to put some emphasis on, because it's gotten so easy to just do everything over Zoom, or it's gotten so easy to just do everything via text message. But that actual face-to-face interaction, I think, is so critical.
The other thing to go along with that is the thank you. Don't forget to follow up with the thank you. I recently took part in a fundraising event in West Michigan for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And it took me 5 months to get, I had 100 and some thank yous, but I just thought, this is so embarrassing that it's taken me this long. But I thought it would be even more embarrassing if I didn't thank these people. I try to do handwritten thank you notes to our sponsors for events. So I think that that's something that people also underestimate, is the power of a thank you and appreciation for sponsoring our event.
That's true, because we're so exhausted usually by the time the events happen. And we forget, we say we wait till the wrap-up meeting, and the wrap-up meeting, if we're going to push it, so a lot of us are guilty of that. So, or after a convention, so that is important. So we actually talked about that at our last Labor Day one, that we would actually get thank yous written before the festival, so that we would, we would just have, a night to where we were doing that, just because we wanted to make sure that we did not miss that
Well,
stuff.
and I love that idea because, you know, you think about like, because the gratitude aspect post event when you're so exhausted sometimes is hard to do. But I like the idea of writing the notes in advance, or it just goes to show, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. If you get like, we have Peggy Anderson's one of our former presidents. She sits on our board still. And after convention, she ended up sending like a gift card to me and Molly each. And like and it was just so out of the blue, right? Like Logan's Roadhouse or whatever, like a steak place gift card. But it shocked me in so many ways. And it's so funny because that still sticks with me. And I haven't even used it yet, but it's like that gratitude of just going above and beyond that, you know, she didn't have to do that. Like she's been around. She's a legend when it comes to MFEA. You know, she's been president multiple times. She's not even currently sitting as the president, but like she didn't need to go above and beyond and do that. But it means a lot. You know, it really sticks into your head and like,
Yeah.
It's
you know,
unexpected.
Right.
In this day and age, people forget about the handwritten or the personal note or the little touch like that, but it'll help with your brand and your reputation and people's willingness to support you again. And you know, the other thing is having a booth at your own event and just being willing to talk to the folks who are visiting and to get their feedback. Lots of times we want to stick our head in the sand, like we don't want any criticism. We're so sick of people bitching about where their booth is or how this is set up, or there's no transportation between this event and that event.
It's raining.
Yeah, exactly. But I
no.
feel like that's important feedback to get so that you can continue and let people know we heard you. And this is what we're doing this year because we heard your complaints or your feedback last year. So just taking that into consideration too.
That's awesome.
And kind of go to piggyback a little bit back to the sponsorship. I think most of us are guilty of, we remember that we didn't thank people when it's time now to ask for sponsorship money again. And then we're like, you know, so I think, and one of the things that we did last year is, so what we did is we took pictures throughout the event. So if we had logos of things, we took pictures. If somebody was like a sponsor of a parade, we took pictures throughout. And then in those thank you cards, you know, put a picture, you know, just a printed picture, like a photo to send with them with it signed, you know. And so if they're a sponsor of the pet show, she got a picture of one of the pets on stage, just something simple to put in there, but you could have your thank you cards all filled out. You're taking pictures anyways, or have a volunteer print.
Right.
Fashion. Remember, like people used to actually print photos. Yeah, that's
Polaroids.
Yeah. So we stick them in there with a thank and just literally thank you, BLDC, you know.
Well, and it's an opportunity to get together with your team and celebrate, because I think we also forget to do that. If you get together, have pizza and beer or whatever and sit and write those thank yous. But we're again there, I feel like we're all of us involved in this call are one of the few people who probably do a lot in every organization that you're involved in. So you forget to celebrate what you're doing and what your event and your festival means to your community and to you. And it can be exhausting. So you got to stop and just enjoy that, savor it.
No, I love that. Like, it's so cool because you guys are giving Molly and I both like so much insight as to what we can do to improve what we're already doing at Michigan festivals and events. And like the idea of like putting in a photo, it's just another unique aspect that you wouldn't expect. It's different than just getting like, you know, hey, here's my thank you card, you know, but to throw a photo in, I love that idea. I love the idea that you guys really make it a priority to be able to go back to the gratitude, because it really is such a hard thing to do sometimes, you know, like what we're at Port Huron for our convention this past year, but when we were in Boyne, you know, running around Boyne is like basically a workout in and of itself for 4 or 5 days. So it's like by the end on Sunday, you're like, oh, my legs are killing me. Like, I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired. But just to kind of have it in the back of your head of like that priority of whether you did do the thank yous in advance or whether you just make sure that it's a priority with your team, like you said.
Yeah, it's important. I think it all boils down to, you know, and everything from today is just collaborative planning, collaborative working, you know, just connect. And Julie and I'd be happy, you know, to help if if you're struggling and you're still, with these ideas, or if you like any of these ideas and you need help on how to achieve them, I'd
Yep.
be more than happy to kind of guide you the way or connect you with somebody in your community if I can't help you. But it's all about collaborative efforts, working with the organizations, and most of those organizations are on this. So we've got our chambers, our DDAs, all of those are important organizations that we work in tandem with as well with those festivals. So, I mean, it's a collaborative effort, that's for sure.
Well, and then you guys have such a knowledge base when it comes to just the printing, the publishing,
Mhm.
whether it's the design, even if it's an idea of like, I mean, you guys showed us 4 or 5 different versions of print, right?
Oh,
like,
there's a whole bunch more too.
Oh, I guarantee, but like, if that's just a resource or an idea to be able to help another festival, event, or a chamber, because we're kind of open access like that too, where it's like, we would love to be able to share the creative ideas that we've been trying to do, or if it's like your organization, because it really is, it's a massively big team effort for the entire state.
We're passionate about it too. So
Yeah.
we are actually very fortunate that we get to be on both sides of it. We get to be on the publishing side, the promotion side, and then on the actual board side, and then in the community. So we're very fortunate when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt for just a second.
Yeah.
We have about 7 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, if you want to pop on and ask, or if you want to write it in the chat, you can do that either place. But like I said, we got about 7 minutes left. But if Amber and Julie want to continue, or if there's anything more that you guys have, if there's no questions. No
Doesn't
questions.
seem like there's any questions.
Well,
But you guys have covered the topic, I think, very well. Just to kind of recap with the idea of branding, to be consistent, whether it's sorry, that's my dog pushing my table. I just respect you guys immensely and appreciate your time. Thank you for even taking an hour out of your busy day, because I know that we're all kind of running around sometimes. So it takes an effort, and I know you guys came very well prepared, so we appreciate it.
Sure.
it's an honor to be able to talk about this, because it's been a decade in the making, our tit for tat,
Yeah.
how we
Yeah, that's like
come
12
up-
years going here
come
together.
up with
so.
events, but we want to share it, share the knowledge. And I just think sometimes you got to think outside the box. So
And if-
and we really would love to help anybody.
Yeah, so if we missed anything, or just let us know. We'll be happy to help out with whatever we can.
Or if anybody happens, because obviously this will be recorded and we'll post it. We'll shoot it out to our email list, but we'll also post it online. But if you're in the Greenville, Ionia, you guys seem to be all over the state,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah.
like wherever it is, like I definitely highly recommend to reach out to one or both of these women. I've been very fortunate to be able to spend some time with Amber, go out to dinner a couple of times and go to conferences together. She's a blast. I know that obviously Molly's better friends with her than I am. However, you can't go wrong with either of these two. And it's truly a blessing to be able to have you guys basically in the fold of what we're trying to do here at Michigan Festivals and Events.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Molly, did you have anything else, or do we?
No, I feel like I stopped
okay.
it. No, we do have 4 minutes left though. If you guys have anything else that you want to cover, or if we want to call it, very informational. I did drop in Amber's contact information, her email address in the chat. But like Eric said, this will be posted on our website and sent out to those that did register. So feel free to share it with whomever you want. But it looks like good reviews so far.
Good. Well, I'm glad.
Good luck to everybody with whatever you're planning this year.
Absolutely.
I mean, we represent here in Michigan.
Yeah.
So
From here to the UP, we try
Yeah.
to travel as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
And so just as kind of a closing, we will be hosting these Tuesdays with Michigan Fun once a month. So be watching your emails for these coming out. We also do host that My TV video podcast that is recorded every Tuesday. If there's any interest with doing an interview with our CEO and director, Mike, let us know. You can shoot a message to either myself or Molly. Those will air at 7 p.m. on mymitv.com. And then also be looking out for the meet and greets that we're having, that Mike is basically touring around the state. So we've already done Traverse City. He's in New Baltimore today.
Yep.
We'll be coming to Jackson. We'll be going to Grand Haven. There's a number of those, but if you want to go out, get a free drink ticket, it's from 5 to 7 p.m. It varies the day. It could be anyway, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But just pay attention to those. And if you get the opportunity to be able to go meet our CEO and director face to face, I would highly encourage that. So.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Everybody appreciate your time. Molly, always you're the best. So
Good to see you again.
all right. All right, you guys. You have a wonderful day.
All right, bye.